Mr. Flynn, what was next?
Ask Mr. Goss to give us an update on the petition itself.
Sure. Please, Mr. Gosta.
Yep, thank you. My office, along with Maureen Storsted's city auditor office, has been working diligently in reviewing the petition. I want to say this, and I think I mentioned this last time, that this is a decision by the city auditor, by their home rule charter. We will provide a memorandum of some of the issues that we've identified so far to assist her in making the decision as to whether what has been submitted is sufficient or insufficient. If it's deemed insufficient, there is a 7-day period of time in which corrections or amendments could be made. That does not include going out and seeking additional signatures. That only relates to initiated ordinances, and this is not an initiated ordinance. Another matter I want to also highlight for the council is that this document, or the documents that were submitted, were neither reviewed nor asked to be approved by my office or by the city auditor's office. It appeared at the city auditor's office on March 23rd of 2022. Counting the 20-day period of time to review the sufficiency of it, if you use March 23rd as the starting date, that means the 20-day period would expire on April 11th. If you use the next day, that means it expires April 12th. Nonetheless, that differentiate between matters that are legislative in nature versus administrative matters that city councils can pass upon. Municipalities are a bit different than statewide or the North Dakota legislature. They pass laws. It's recognized that city municipalities can engage in more administrative decisions. And there is case law and there is law to suggest that administrative decisions are not referable as opposed to legislative. Legislative matter is something that is permanent law or sets forth some sort of rule of conduct or course of conduct for guidance of citizens overall. Administrative decisions are more in the nature of to execute previous policies or enacted laws that are already in place. For example, annexation of territory was administrative and not referable. Tax exemption for property was administrative and not referable, and a rezoning in the law that we've discovered to date was administrative as opposed to legislative. Other issues that exist is the possibility that the petition is asking for multiple questions in a single ballot measure. That causes some concerns from our office, and we're exploring and reviewing that. The possibility that the documents may include what are deemed to be extraneous materials. If it's not a multiple question, then the possibility of extraneous materials may exist within the petitioning documents as well. And the issue with respect to we look back at the Arbor Park initiated measure. That was an initiated measure as opposed to a referral matter. But in that instance, that petition was reviewed. And there were changes made, as I understand, from what was originally presented versus what was circulated. And there are differences to what has been received versus what was the petition that was put together for the Arbor Park. There are differences to what we've got today, and so we're reviewing that as well. Because in the Arbor Park, there were requirements with respect to what needed to be within the signature pages that don't seem to appear in what has been presented today. And again, those are issues that we're reviewing. My expectation is that what my office is planning on doing is submitting a memorandum to Ms. Storstad to go through some of the issues that we've identified. a legal analysis of those issues, that then she could use that memorandum in making a decision on the sufficiency of the petition. It's one component of the sufficiency review that Ms. Dorstead will engage in. She's also looking at, as I understand, signatures, whether people that have signed live within the city or qualified electors, and those type of issues as well. And those are matters that are within the city auditor's office. Our office is not engaged in that level of review. We're looking more at more of the legal issues with respect to what's been presented. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gosted? Mr. Weber, you look like you're ready for a question.
Sure,
Please.
please, thanks. So, if there were mistakes in the way the petition was put forward, that would result in your recommendation or the decision from the city auditor to not allow the petition. I don't know that I'm using the correct terminology there. It is not in the purview of the city council to override that. We don't get to decide whether this should move forward or not. This is outside of our hands. Is that correct?
It is, and I want to, one caveat is that I know there was a question posed about the city council referring this themselves. There is a home rule charter provision that talks about referring of ordinances in seeking an advisory vote, but that's before the ordinance is adopted. This is not an ordinance. Also, there'd be concerns about engaging in that and doing that when we've got a mandatory requirement. Somebody has invoked that initiation process, right? By filing those documents, that home rule charter provision, section 14, it's home rule charter article 4, section 14 says that those provisions in that referral are mandatory, which I read to mean somebody's invoked that, and so we have a mandatory obligation to go through that process at this point. There would, I suppose, be the possibility of the city council, because one of the matters with respect to suspension is the suspension would end if the city council would repeal the ordinance or resolution, which would mean you'd have to go through a reconsideration of the approval of the development agreement, which I would not recommend for the reason that you'd be overriding a home rule charter that is mandatory in and of itself. And there may be issues with respect to whether what has been presented is even referable. I hope it was a little long-winded, but I hope I answered your
that
question.
helps. The decision about the petition is not in the city council's hands.
Correct.
Thanks.
I can go through my